If you're watching this video, you probably just found out that you have high blood pressure, or somebody in your family has high blood pressure, and you're wondering, wow, how do I deal with that? It comes as a surprise to people because it happens to you a lot younger than you think that you would get it. And I always say to people that when you're young, the difference between being 20 and 40 is, you just don't know what's wrong with you yet. It catches up with you by the time you're 40 years old. So what happened with me was when I was 35, I almost had a stroke. And the way that I figured out that I had high blood pressure and battled my way back from it was that I went for an eye exam. I was getting spots on my vision, and it was showing up around the edge of the eye, and I thought that I had glaucoma. So I went for an eye exam, and I was nervous enough about the eye exam. Anyway, so I went through to an optometrist, and the optometrist looked at my eyes, and when he did the scope up close, he could see the blood vessels were bursting in my eyes from the high blood pressure. And he called an ophthalmologist, and of course I was sitting in the other room waiting to hear what he had to say to me, and I could hear him telling the other guy, "You've never seen anything like this. You need to get your students together and come see this guy, because you will never see anything like this again." He took my blood pressure. It was very high, but he didn't tell me what it was. And he told me, "I'm going to send you to an ophthalmologist, and he's probably going to send you to the emergency room, and I highly recommend you go." Of course, I had family in town. I would always go. I felt rude for going to this appointment in the first place. I wanted to put it off, but I went to the ophthalmologist. The ophthalmologist had the same reaction, holy crap, you're going to die reaction. And he told me he was going to admit me to the emergency room, so he called over to Northside Hospital in Atlanta, and I went there. They took my blood pressure, and they threw me into ICU. So I went to ICU, and of course, immediately they were like, "You're going to die, you're going to pop." They used words like that. My blood pressure was 240/167. Now, I genetically have high blood pressure. I had it when I was in college. It was 160/90, and I didn't realize how high that was. Your typical blood pressure should be 120/80, and anything above that is pre-hypertension. Then you get into categories where it's hypertension, where you start bursting little blood vessels in your eyes, your kidneys, and your liver, and all over your body. And they don't show from the outside. It shows up when they do urine tests, but it doesn't show visibly. You wouldn't see it looking at someone's eye. And you actually feel quite normal, because I felt quite wonderful the whole entire time. They asked me, did I have headaches? And I'm like, I've never had a headache in my life, which is true. I'm just one of those people. And I felt pretty dang normal. So long story short, what they did is they put me in ICU. They told my family I was going to die. They told me I was going to die. And I had a conversation with God where I was pretty much like, after all I've been through, do you think that I should die now? And I'm not the bargaining type. I'm not the apologetic type for how I live my life. I have always lived my life very openly and honestly, for my friends, my family, and in front of everybody else. And, I don't typically ask people's permission. I try to be considerate, and, in the ways that I conduct myself. And, essentially all around to be, as ideal of a human being as I possibly can and still be happy, while not, doing things that make other people unhappy or letting them be aware of that. But anyway, so I wasn't doing drugs or anything like that. There's no odd reason for me to have had my blood pressure shoot up that much, except for it had just gone on so long undetected that suddenly I was in an episode, So they told my family that I was going to die. I thought I was going to die, and I had that conversation with God, and I was like, I'm not necessarily going to change anything. I'm not interested in buying more time. If I'm going to go and it's going to be right now, then I'm ready to go. But I really want to live. And I woke up in the morning and then started to improve the next day. So I spent a week in the hospital. About 4 days in, they put me in a room, and then they let me go take a shower for the first time after being there for several days. And of course, the first day I was in there, they were like, we don't want you to stand up to do anything, to use the bathroom or anything. I was like, I'm sorry, I have too much dignity for this. I'm not going to pee in a bedpan. If I die standing up to pee, I die standing up to pee, because they told me I was going to die anyway, and I felt like, wonderful, and but knew I was supposed to die, so I didn't die, and here I am today. Well, what happened was I went on blood pressure medications, and the first thing they gave me was, they gave me several different, like a diuretic, and then they gave me something similar to lisinopril, which is a regulator for your blood pressure. A lot of people are on lisinopril or something similar to that. Then I was also on a catapress. And a catapress is a patch, and they usually give it to elderly patients, who they're not afraid they're going to damage, their internal organs, and they're just trying to keep them alive. So I was on a catapress, and that was about a $300 $300 prescription every month. So I was spending like $300 for prescriptions, and then I had a huge medical bill because I'm a server, and I had server's insurance, and that insurance was not very good. And then I upgraded to the next insurance, and then, long story short, what happened with me was I spent a week away from the hospital and at home trying out my blood pressure medications. The first thing that happened was they dropped it from, 240 over 167 to 120 over 80. And it was hitting that. But every day in the middle of the day, I would feel the blood drain out of my neck. My lips would turn kind of like a faint shade of purplish blue like death, and I had to go take a nap. So I called my mom, who was alive at the time. I was living with my father because Dad was my roommate at the time. And Mom was like, call your doctor and get something done about that. So what they did was they lowered the dosage I was taking my medication. Well, anyway, I did that for a couple of months, and then weirdly enough, you're supposed to reduce your stress and stuff like that, and I had a string of family members die. My mom died. I was in the hospital in November of that year. My mom died in March of that year. We found out at Christmas that she had mesothelioma, an incurable cancer in the lining of your lung caused by asbestos. She had been in the military. She was Women's Air Force, and back in the early 50s, before they actually had women in the Air Force, they had WAF, which was the Women's Air Force. That's where she met my dad. Anyway, she had probably contracted it then, had it her whole entire life, and then it finally flared up when she was 73 years old, and my mother passed away. Like I said, I was November in the hospital, and she passed away in March. She was diagnosed in December. So I had to endure all that stress. And I thought, well, this is going to kill me. I got through my mother's death, and I realized, like, okay, I have to manage things. I have to let things go that I can't control. And I had to take these medications. And I also need to figure out what I've been doing wrong with my diet and those things to heal myself. Because my doctors, for about 2 years after, still had the expectation that I was just going to have a stroke or drop dead of a heart attack, which is just unbelievable when you're 35, 36, 37 years old, but it happens. It happens to a lot of people. Kids drop dead playing football all the time because they have some kind of genetic situation or, a heart, problem that they didn't know that they had, and they're out in the glory of their lives, and they, drop off the face of the earth. So that was almost what happened to me. So I continued to take my medications, and one of the other things that I did that was really fantastic was on BBC TV, they had a woman from Great Britain who is a holistic nutritionist. Her name is Gillian McKeith. You can find her videos on YouTube. She's extremely, extremely helpful. And she talks about everything from the fat intake of your diet to your sodium count, how do you reduce your sodium, what's sneaking around in your fast foods and processed foods and things like that. And she has a whole regimen that I didn't follow exactly because I didn't quit drinking. I'm still a smoker. I did change my diet, and I did work on offloading my stress, and not letting things that I couldn't change or that I couldn't influence impact me emotionally in such a way. And then even in the face of death, realizing that there are just some things you have no control over, and you just have to accept, let them out into the universe, pray them away, whatever you can do to get to the next step, because survival is paramount when it comes to these things, and it is in us to have a will to live and survive. So about 2 years in, and several family deaths later, I started getting good with the whole dealing with stress thing and all that. And at about that point, I had been off the catapress for several years. At that point, I only did that for a couple of months when I first got out of the hospital. But I had an enlarged heart from the high blood pressure. I had done kidney damage. Quite sure I had done liver damage. I certainly had damaged my eyes. All of that predominantly repaired itself in about 2 years in after following this regimen. And with Gillian McKeith, like I said, not to the letter of the law, but definitely having it influence how I ate and what I did. I had my blood pressure dropping down into more normal levels, you know. And I think initially it was like 140 over like 85, and it hung there for a couple of years, and then it started dropping to like 110 over like 60, which really made me feel like I was going to die. You know, it really made me feel like I wanted to go to sleep. It didn't make me feel like I was going to die, but then I had to change my medication again. And what you'll do is you'll step down and you'll change it. Another thing that's interesting was when I went to the hospital, I was 180 pounds, which is way too thin for me. I weigh about 230 right now. In some of my videos, I'm 245. I'm a little chunky, you know. I'm still a little chunky, but that's natural for my body type. And what I had to realize was I was too skinny, you know, and that I needed to put on a little bit of weight. And I started doing that by eating more healthier. Before, I would skip meals a lot, you know, and then eat once a day to stay thin. You know, it's stupid crap. You know, you don't think about yourself as potentially being anorexic, but that's, you know, yeah. I think I was probably on the verge of becoming anorexic. I think it would have stopped myself. But then when I realized just not eating and trying to stay skinny was going to like freaking kill me, I was like, I'm going to find out what I can eat, and I'm going to eat, and I'm going to enjoy it. And I did change that. So I gained weight. Coincidentally, you're usually supposed to lose weight to have your blood pressure come up, but it's a balancing act. It's what's a good weight for you, and what is stressing your body, and you only know that because you know your body, you know. And a doctor can tell you what's ideal, but you have to figure these things out according to how you feel, and you have to communicate with your doctor. And I'm always honest with my doctor about what I drink, what I eat, what I've been doing, what's, you know, I try not to burden him with, you know, all the stresses, you know, and everything that are going on with me, but I'll tell him, you know, if my blood pressure's high at an appointment, you know, what was going on that day, you know. Like one day it was pretty high, and well, higher than it's been in a while, you know, in many years. And I had a lot of things going on, and I'd gotten phone calls that morning, and usually I clear everything out before I go to an appointment so I won't be stressed out. And I was super stressed, and it was showing in my blood pressure. And he was like, well, check with me next time. So, you know, and it came down within the next day after I started handling everything that suddenly kamikazed me right before I went in. So anyway, long story short, what I'm going to show you now real quickly is I'm going to show you a blood pressure cuff, and I'm going to tell you how much they cost, because everybody should have one of these in their house, just like you should have a thermometer. And then I'm going to show you how you can access a blood pressure chart online. But before I do that, let me mention to you once again, check out Jillian McKeith. Fast food is processed, all processed food and canned foods. You can eat some of them, but you have to calculate it. You are only supposed to have, it's less than 2,000 milligrams of sodium every day. And if you're eating 3 meals a day, you got to figure out how much, you know, how you're going to do that, you know. And like in my case, I'm a waiter, so I eat twice a day, you know, but it's 2 times a day. But you know, I've managed to stay healthy and be consistent, not develop you know, issues with my blood sugar or anything like that, you know. And that's just what works for me, and I don't recommend it for everybody else. But anyway, long story short, 2,000 milligrams a day. For instance, if you eat a McDonald's double cheeseburger, has well over 1,000 milligrams in it. So you ate one burger, and then you added some fries to it, and you may have consumed all the sodium you're supposed to consume for a day. So would you rather cook at home, or would you rather eat, you know, somewhere, you know, that you know is, you know, you're going to be able to eat something that's less sodium concentrated? And sometimes what I do when I go out to eat is, if I know that something's going to have sodium in it, then I'll eat more vegetable salads, things like that, you know, or some rice or whatever I can get, a baked potato, you know, something that's not loaded with sodium. The other thing is, when you're on blood pressure medications, your potassium level will go up if you're on a diuretic, because consequently, while you're the point in relieving your water content or your liquid content in your body is that all travels in your bloodstream. So your heart and your veins and everything do have to pump that through. So you want to get rid of your excess water when you are on a diuretic and when you have high blood pressure, you know. And I drink a lot of water because I'm always dressed in a tie and a t-shirt in a restaurant that next to the ovens is probably closer to 85 degrees than it is out on the floor, and I feel thirsty like I've been in the desert all day, you know. So I have to watch my water intake. You know, they say like 8 glasses a day, you know, not huge glasses, so that you're hydrated enough but not overhydrated. But potassium gets left behind residually in a little bit more of an excess than normal when you're on a blood pressure medication. So you have to watch out, for instance, eating bananas or drinking too much orange juice, those kind of things. Eating too much spinach can have a reaction with your blood pressure medications that can make your blood coagulate, when the opposite is what you're trying to do with the blood thinner, is try to make it smoother and flow a little better. My blood is extremely coagulant. I have like very, very thick, a thick concentration of red blood cells. My blood is like a burgundy color and very viscous, and my white blood cells are yellow instead of like a kind of like lighter yellow color. So I know that I probably have an overabundance of, you know, like somebody said one time, you're never going to die in a car accident by bleeding to death, you know, but you might have a stroke, you know. That's what I found out. Anyway, so let me show you this cuff. Okay, first things first, I have a cuff on, and the one that I have on my arm right here, as you can see, has a little green strip, and it shows you where you're supposed to put it on the large artery. So when you put your hand down like this, it should go kind of towards the lower middle, you know, where that vein is. So you want to pick up that vein to get an accurate blood pressure reading, or close to accurate blood pressure reading. So it should be in that general ballpark. The other thing is I have 2 sizes of cuffs. My arms are about 16 and a half inches, around somewhere around there. They're bigger than average, and average blood pressure cuff is 14 inches. So you can upgrade, and they plug in and plug out of your machine like that. I use my machine with batteries, but they do have ones that plug to the wall. It just plugs into the little hole there. Anyway, this machine I bought at like a Rite Aid, and it was about 90 bucks, and I've had it for 9 years, so it's held up very well. But anyway, when you go in, you can check your memory, you can turn your thing on and off. You want to be rested, relaxed, and breathing at a normal pace, and ideally not stressed, because your blood pressure will go up and down all throughout the day. If you have to use the bathroom, if you're stressed out, if you're hungry, whatever, it's going to jump or drop or whatever. So you want to take it, you know, kind of, you know, at a normal time of the day, every day. It's going to be higher in the morning and higher in the evening, because you're getting up, your blood pressure is doing, you know, going all crazy, and at night you're tired, and even though you feel all sleepy and groggy, until you fall asleep, your blood pressure doesn't drop. In the middle of the day, when you're doing your normal activities and exercise and things like that, it's going to go up and down a little bit. So, you know, you can take an average of readings, you know, every day, but there's a ballpark, you know, you want to be in that's healthy for you. Anyway, so I'm going to show you on the memory what my blood pressure is like. Like last time I took it was 120/74. One time I took it, it was 145/80. I took that early in the morning, so you see how much. The pulse is 71. So the one on the top is when your heart is beating, the one at the bottom is when your heart is at rest. This one will move around a lot more than this one should. You know, it'll drop within 10 points or whatever, but mainly the top one will go up and down depending on your stress and everything else. You don't want it to be up anywhere around 90 on the bottom. You know, you want it to be 80 or lower, and, you know, ideally around 75 or 70. So anyway, that was a day that I got up and I took it, because that was the only time I had to take it, and it was high in the morning, and that's what it does, and it drops out and evens out throughout the day with the medication. Then one day it was 110/78. That's a nice low one. Another day it was 117/73. Another day it was 146/79. I probably had a couple of drinks the night before. That will jack your blood pressure up, yes. You know, if you drink too much, you know. 129/79. So this is about the average range where mine ranges. Anything where your blood pressure, especially on the bottom, is getting up around 90, you start to potentially damage blood vessels and things like that. Yeah, I'm going to turn that off. So anyway, in the comments and everything on the page, I will tell you how to Google to see a blood pressure chart that you can print from offline or refer to. And if you have any questions, if I can help you, this is just from my personal experience, and I came back from death's door. These were some things that helped me. And I'm actually quite healthy now, and I probably could die at any time, and I don't know, how that's going to go. But I'm doing everything that I can to stay in good health, and, I run around at work. I get a lot of exercise at work, so I get a lot of aerobic exercise. And, those are the things that I've been doing, upping my activity level, trying to watch what I eat, and trying to reduce my stress level, and taking my medication regularly, because you will not last without your medication. And, that's just one of those things. If you want to live a while longer, if you happen to have high blood pressure, there's some things that you could do to change, like, maybe lose some weight or quit smoking. But then there are other things that may be there that are genetic factors that you can't change at all. And you, like in my case, will probably be on it for the rest of your life. But I might live for a long time, as my doctors tell me, probably a full life. And if that's the lifestyle and the lifespan in my family, I could live to be 101 years old, because most of my aunts, uncles, and grandparents lived to be at least 95 to 100. You might be seeing a lot of videos for a long damn time.